Why Sidney Powell murdered her own mother. The love between a daughter and her mother is truly remarkable. But sometimes, even the closest families can have problems. In this sad story, the daughter told a lie to her mom. They argued, and something terrible happened. The daughter ended up murdering her own mom. So, how did it all start? Now, this is the story of Sidney Powell and her mother, Brenda Powell. Hailing from Akron, Ohio, Sidney is a former high school honor roll student. In fact, she achieved a 3.8 GPA at St. Vincent St. Mary High School in 2018. She was also the soccer team captain. In 2019, she entered college and was awarded a partial academic scholarship. However, she started struggling with her studies while studying at the University of Mount Union. On the other hand, her 50-year-old mother worked at Akron Children's Hospital, Showers Family Center for Childhood Cancer and Blood Disorders for approximately 30 years. She was a child life specialist in the Hematology-Oncology unit. During her career, this kind lady founded the Oncology Teen Program, and she was known for planning activities for families to celebrate every success. Her obituary reads, "The care provided and the relationships developed contributed to individual and memorable moments that would last a lifetime." Now, Sidney was not paying attention to her studies. She was placed on academic probation and was later expelled. However, she didn't tell her family. Akron Police Lieutenant David Whitten investigated this case and discovered that Sidney had not told her family. In fact, one of the text messages sent by Brenda reads, "Why do I feel like you are always scamming me? Just remember that you need the grades to keep your scholarships." Well, Sidney's reply was, "Yes, I know. My grades are good. Thank you very much." What happened to Brenda? It was March 3rd, 2020, when the University of Mount Union decided to call Sidney's mother. On the other side of the phone, they could hear yelling and screaming. The reason? Brenda had already discovered that Sidney had been expelled and was lying to her. Brenda confronted her daughter. The two argued, and Sidney decided to stab her own mother. She stabbed her mother more than 24 times, while initially using a skillet and later a knife. Officials from the college contacted the police department. The phone cut off at some point after. I would say somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 or 7 of those thudding, those sort of thud sounds, and the screaming had continued. Associate Dean of Students Michelle Gaffney testified in court. School officials were alarmed when they decided to call Brenda again. Talking about the second call, Gaffney said, "The voice on the other end said, 'Yes, this is Brenda. Yes, this is Brenda.' It was not Brenda. I was sure it was Sidney." Both Dean of Students John Fraser and I looked at each other and sort of shook our heads at each other and said, "That's not Brenda." He then said, "Sidney, I think this is you. This is not Brenda." The phone went dead. Gaffney was worried and called the police department to alert them about the situation. When police officials arrived at Sidney's home, they found Brenda lying on the floor with fatal lacerations. Sidney also had minor injuries, and both of them were rushed to the hospital. Unfortunately, Brenda succumbed to her injuries and was pronounced dead on the same day. The Summit County Medical Examiner concluded that the cause of Brenda's death was multiple sharp and blunt force injuries. Sidney claimed that there was a break-in at the house. However, the police department concluded that Sidney was lying. Now, this is one lie she told the officials. At one point during the investigation, she also claimed that she had hallucinations and went into the basement of her parents' house to get rid of the voices in her head. And she didn't remember anything. Sidney was charged with murder, felonious assault, as well as tampering with evidence. In April 2020, she was released on a $25,000 bail, and then she went to live with her grandparents. Trial and outcome. Her trial started on September 7, 2023. Well, she pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity. Her entire family, especially her father, supported her and wanted to give her a lenient sentence. He begged prosecutors not to pursue the murder charges against Sidney. Sidney's father, Steve, said that his daughter was in a state of psychosis when the argument with her mother started. When Steve was given a chance to speak during pre-trial, he said, "I don't know why we're doing this. This isn't what anyone wants here. I don't know how she can handle it. I don't know how I can handle it. I'm trying to keep my family together. Well, prosecutor Sherry Bevan Walsh wrote in an emailed statement, "We have the utmost sympathy for Brenda Powell's surviving family members. In the interests of justice in the community, we believe the case is best resolved by presenting a fair and impartial jury with all the facts and letting them decide the outcome." So the trial started, and Sydney's defense attorney claimed the girl was suffering from schizophrenia, which was undiagnosed at the time. Here, it is important to note that Dr. James Reardon evaluated Sydney in the fall of 2021, and that's when he diagnosed her with schizophrenia. She was also diagnosed with major depressive disorder. However, doctors also said it's rare for individuals suffering from schizophrenia to carry out such acts of violence. Now, the question is, was Sydney trying to exaggerate her illness to escape responsibility? Or was she actually so severely mentally ill that she did not realize she was killing her own mother? Don't forget to share your thoughts with me in the comment section below. During the trial, both sides argued whether Sydney was exaggerating her illness or not. The defense called Dr. Robin Belcher Time to the stand, who concluded that Sydney was not trying to exaggerate her illness. However, when Dr. Sylvia Obradovich interviewed Sydney, she concluded that she was actually exaggerating her illness. Dr. Sylvia also said that the defense experts' tests weren't accurate. Eventually, on September 20th, 2023, Sydney was found guilty of 2 counts of murder, 1 count of tampering with evidence, and 1 count of felonious assault. Summit Court County of Common Pleas Judge Kelly McLaughlin sentenced her to life in prison, and she will be eligible for parole after 15 years. Talking about this case, Brian Loprinzi, the chief of the Summit County Criminal Division, said, "The law does not require us to succumb to the wishes of the victim's family. The defendants' families often don't want to persecute their loved ones. That's not unusual at all." Sydney's mental health. Her former roommates also told officials that she was struggling mentally. They noticed that Sydney used to sleep excessively. What's shocking is that Sydney's roommates told the investigators that she stayed on campus despite being dismissed. Sydney would have memory blackouts without the influence of alcohol or any other drug. And this continued until February 2020, where school officials urged Sydney to leave the school premises. Well, Reardon also said in his report, "I have rarely, if ever, seen a situation where an individual was in such an utterly compromised psychological state as Sydney Powell was at the time of these offenses." However, other healthcare professionals who examined Sydney said that she had schizophrenia and post-traumatic stress disorder in the wake of her mom's death. That's all for today's video, and thanks for watching it. Before you leave, make sure to subscribe to my channel and hit the bell icon to never miss any updates. Until next time, take care and stay tuned.